Well, thank you, Pamela, and good afternoon, everybody. First and foremost, I'd like to thank the Innovation Showcase team, the innovation experts that you see out there, the project teams as well, because without them, we wouldn't be able to play with a lot of the cool toys that we are able to get out there. I'd also like to thank the AV, communications, and marketing teams for their splendid support in making this happen. So one of the things I want to talk to you guys about as you sit here today and tomorrow, and as you go back to your project sites and your homes and offices, is how to use innovation. And what does innovation mean to you? By show of hands, who thinks they're innovative, in all honesty? Come on. 2 people? All right, so I guess my work is cut out for me here. So that's the thing. Innovation can mean many different things to many different people. It could be hardware, such as your iPhone or your iPad. It could be a software package, such as Procore or Planet. It could be people. It could be a process. So many things to many people. One of the key things that is important looking across the board with innovation and its process is the people itself. It's one of the things we do, in my opinion, quite poorly in terms of highlighting our greatest asset, and that's people. Innovation stems from the efforts of our people on our job sites and the office itself, and it's from there where we've become truly innovative. One of the things, too, in terms of collaboration, you've heard it here today and possibly tomorrow and as you go into the offices as well, but looking at being better together. What can we do to be better together? That's sharing ideas, that's collaboration, that's communication. It's efforts such as like 4 or 5 years ago where Skanska Building teamed up with Civil to get their drone program off the ground. Okay. All right, I'll stop the jokes. In any case, but it's other opportunities, interdepartmental opportunities too, and collaboration efforts, working with CD and building together a machine learning application to look at safety and enhance that as well. It could be inter-business units, departmental, such as marketing and business development, virtual design and construction, working together to define those solutions as well. One of the other things I wanted to point out too with this process is that with it being collaboration, looking at people, it starts from a simple idea. One of my favorite movies is Inception. And with that effort, we're able to then, take a look here. With a simple idea, we're able to identify what keeps us up at night. What is that simple challenge that we see on the job sites or in our offices? It's looking at that idea and taking and running with it and utilizing the resources we have available. Most of you in the room may or may not know the 3 deadly sins, but it's somewhat similar into how we look at innovation across the company. Do I have the right team? Do I have the right tools? And do I have the right opportunity? The great thing about innovation is not just confined within construction or any other particular market sector. There's one common core application in terms of process when looking at innovation. Those of you who know me know my love for aviation and space, so I wanted to kind of share a little bit of that, but also tying it into the innovative process itself. The first thing is communication. You got to have a clear, identified message and goal set forth. In 1960, President Kennedy set forth a mandate. We will put a human on the moon by the end of this decade. Simple message, clearly communicated out to the United States as well as NASA. The second part of that recipe is really about collaboration. It's taking that message, that communication piece, and working together as a team. Again, being better together. Here you're looking at Gene Kranz, who was the flight director for NASA Mission Control, a couple of sub-consultants from Boeing and Lockheed Martin, as well as NASA engineers, essentially driving that message and driving that communication piece home. We will put a human on the moon by the end of the century, by the end of the decade. The third is really about then looking at critical thinking. Critical thinking applies those first 2 messages. In this image here, you're looking at Jack Swigert, one of the Apollo 13 astronauts. And in this case, he's utilizing information that he's received from Mission Control, his own experience in education, as well as just gut intuition to solve one of the many thousands of problems on Apollo 13. And those 3 C's, communication, collaboration, and critical thinking, allow us to be innovative. You see this message drive home through many different sectors, whether it's automotive, aviation, construction, and so forth. The important thing about those steps is that that gets us to the table. But to really drive innovation on our job sites and out there in the field, we really have to be creative. And creative thinking is what I call the final cherry on top of this sundae. Creative thinking and creativity in its sense is really about taking what we've built upon and adding to it. Very much the same process of research and development. The quote here by Isaac Newton, describing, "I would not be here today, essentially, without standing on the shoulders of giants." Another famous Stu Graham quote was, "Steal with pride." And that's what we're looking for you guys to do out there in the Innovation Showcase. Meet with those teams, those innovators, and understand and see how they apply technology and tools to their particular project sites. No need to reinvent the wheel. Looking at Newton and his definition of the 3 laws of motion, we know he didn't invent gravity, but he was able to identify certain aspects and certain physics with it that it gave us his laws of motion. That 3rd law of motion allowed the research and development into the advent of flight. So those of you, somebody in the audience, help me out here. 3rd law of motion. Every force in nature has an equal and opposite reaction or force. So in the case of aviation, taking Newton's laws and looking at the creative process, innovators such as Orville and Wilbur Wright were able to look at flight, studying birds, studying other physics and other equations to identify the 4 forces of flight. You have weight, you have thrust, you have drag, and you have lift. Taking that, we have others who have advanced over the last 50 to 100 years, the very same concepts to essentially put the International Space Station up in space. So again, I'm hoping you guys are seeing a little bit of that critical thinking and creativity coming into play. They are essentially doing the same recipe over and over. So let's take a look at this in context to where we are in construction. So we are actually going through another revolution, the 4th revolution. And before I get to that, I wanted to highlight the Industrial Revolution because that was the first. We go from an agrarian society to more of an industrialized one. And then comes the advent of the 2nd revolution, where we take those materials that have been advanced, such as steel, electricity, gas, and we start to mass produce on assembly lines. Taking that into the 3rd revolution during the 70s and 80s, we have the advent of the personal computer. Personal computers have greatly helped us out, obviously, throughout the years and into our jobs as well. And with that definition of the 3rd revolution, we have the invention of the internet. Thanks. So, here we are today in the 4th revolution, and this is something very unique to all industries, not just construction, but keep this in mind. Over the last 25 years, that revolution has advanced by far the most out of the previous 3 and any other civilization up to this point. 4th revolution looks at technologies that are disruptive. You may have heard that term throughout the day and even throughout your project sites. These technologies consist of drones, Internet of Things, looking at a connected job site, 3D printing like our folks at Gulf Coast Medical with Tracy Hunt, utilizing it for communication with the project team. And it's taking those technologies and applying it in ways that we cannot prescribe. And that's one of the greatest things about the use of collaboration and creativity in the innovation process. So one of the things I also want to point out, as you go out to the Innovation Showcase itself, keep in mind, these are your friends, your teammates. Find out how they use the technology in itself. Find out what were their pain points, what were the challenges, and take that home with you and apply that to your projects or your office situation, because that's how we truly advance. Now, on your tables, you'll notice that there is a little card stock that looks like a checklist. That's kind of a passport system. Please put your names on those, and as you go out to the showcase itself, meet with those individuals, because as you get checked off, the goal is to get 50% of your checklist complete. Fill in some comments on the back so we can further advance the showcase itself. But then at the end of the day tomorrow, or during lunch tomorrow, actually, we'll be doing a raffle to draw for 2 door prizes, one being a DJI drone and the other being a VR headset. So again, go out there, steal with pride, and let's share our information together. So thank you.